everyone, and welcome to our webinar, Liven Up Your Recipes, Not Your Costs, where we will present you all of our cost-saving solutions. So before we start, let me present you the agenda and the speakers of today's webinar. So first, regarding the agenda, we will, of course, present you the market trends and give you a quick introduction regarding the trends before we present you all of our cost-saving solutions. And we will end our webinar with a Q&A session. Our speakers today are Lucille, our R&D expert for bakery application, and Eric, our key account manager for bakery, culinary, and nutrition, and myself, category manager. Quick reminder, during our webinar, all the attendees are on mute, but you can, of course, ask us your questions in the tab question on the right side of your screen. We will answer to the questions at the end of the webinar, and we will answer to you personally if we don't have the time to answer you during the webinar. And of course, and as always, the presentation will be sent to you after the webinar. So let's first take a look at the market trends before diving in our cost-saving solutions. So as you know, the consumers' expectations are, of course, at the heart of your concerns. But as you may have seen, they have changed a little bit in the past years and months. Consumers are now looking to consume less but better. They're looking for healthy products and are really concerned about the raw materials and ingredients that are used in their end product. They're also looking for transparency and ethics. They're looking at the origins of the ingredients and the raw materials that are used, focusing on local production and local ingredients. They are eager to get answers regarding the origin, like I said, but also the reasons of, for example, prices increase. And they're also trying to get more and more information and get a direct relationship with the producers. That's what I said when I meant, looking for local products and raw material suppliers. There's also a question of commitment that has arose among the consumers. They're trying to be really committed consumers with the idea of I am what I eat. And that's what they're trying to find a product that matches their values in life. So really we see a very increase in the global consumer awareness in general, but it is quite difficult for industrial to match all that with the issues we've seen over the past months and year. As you know, with the political crisis, the supply issues, and with the sometimes shortage of raw material, and of course the prices fluctuations. So it has become quite a difficult and challenging situation for industrials, where it is not easy to find a balance, especially regarding the production costs. So that's why here we will then present you all of our cost-saving solutions that will help you in this situation, this kind of situation. So before we begin, let me show you the different pillars and categories of cost-saving solutions that we have. So we have 5 pillars and categories of cost-saving products. The first one will focus on the gluten reduction. The second one will help you increase the hydration of your dough. The third one will be focusing on nut reduction. After, we'll move on to fat reduction. And then we'll present you our starch solution, starch substitution solution. And all of our solution work, of course, in different applications, whether it's bakery applications like bread, sliced bread, viennies, even pastries, and even culinary applications like sauces, desserts, and even more. So now let's start and let us present you our gluten or our solution for gluten reduction. And I leave the floor to my colleague Eric.
Hi you all, thank you for joining us. My name is Erik Lichtenberg. I'm the key account manager for bakery, culinary and nutrition, mainly for the Northern European part. And I'm glad to have a small talk about our cost-saving solutions. First of all, the Glue Safe Plus to reduce the added gluten with the GlueSafe Plus. GlueSafe Plus is a unique clean label solution that strengthens the native gluten network in your flour. GlueSafe Plus is a result of our experience and knowledge in functional flour and enzyme technology. GlueSafe Plus allows you to significantly reduce your added gluten up to 30 or 100% depending on the application, in which my colleague Lucille will tell you a little bit more later on. Therefore, it's a cost-saving solution. Our GlueSafe Plus has the same effect as gluten. It improves consistency, the elasticity, the tolerance of the dough, and it also improves the oven spring and volume. And it's very easy to use. You simply add it to your formulation. It has no impact on the process and hydration levels. All in all, it's a clean label. The only declaration is a wheat flour. And for the application, how to use it, I would like to ask my colleague Lucille to take over for the application.
Thank you, Eric. Good morning to everyone. I'm Lucille Dubost, and I am in charge of new product development in bakery and pastry application in the Hydra ingredient company. With GlueSafe Plus ingredient, we can reduce different percentage of gluten depending on the applications. In French type bread, we can add 1% of gluten and substitute all the quantity and replace with GlueSafe Plus. In sliced bread, if you add 2% in your recipe, you can substitute 50%. In wholemeal bread, you can substitute 60 to 70% if 3% of gluten is added in initial recipe. And finally, in brioche, you can substitute 30 to 40% of the gluten if you add 3% in your recipe. Here is an example of cost saving in sliced bread using GlueSafe Plus. GlueSafe Plus is a clean label solution which strengthens native gluten network in flour. In sliced bread, you can reduce 50% of added gluten. Depending on the recipe, you could substitute until 60% by increasing GlueSafe Plus dosage. The ingredient is the result of our know-how on functional flours and enzymes. It has the same effect as gluten, no dough stickiness, same tenacity, good volume, and very good tolerance for the dough. Easy to use, the declaration is wheat flour. On the right, you've got the table of the trials we have done. So you can see that in the control bread, we add 2% of gluten, and in the trial, we substitute 50%. So we add only 1% of gluten and 0.5% of GlueSafe Plus. There is an example of cost saving. If you produce 10 million sliced bread of 50 grams each, you can have a cost saving of 59 euros. So with GlueSafe Plus, you can have a gluten reduction up to 50%.
Okay, so now let's move on to the hydration part and discover our solution to increase the hydration in order to reduce the cost. Then I leave my colleague Eric to take over.
Thank you, Lucille. Thank you, Aurélie. Yes, I would like to talk to you about our second solution in cost saving to improve the hydration on your dough with our Hydra and Hydra Plus solutions. Hydra solutions are the unique clean label solutions dedicated to increase your hydration level on your dough. Both solutions are a blend of our knowledge and experience in functional flours and enzyme technology. With Hydra solutions, you can increase the hydration levels of your dough without any stickiness, without any problems in your processing. Therefore, it's a cost-saving solution, and as said, it optimizes your production and optimizes your production costs. It improves the product quality because it will give you a more resilient texture and more softness to the end of the shelf life from, for example, a sliced bread or a bagel. And it's also applicable to several bread products, pastries, soft tortillas, etc. In all, it's again a clean label declaration. The only declaration is a wheat flour. In all, it's easy to use. It gives you benefits to the dough handling and crumb softness to the end of the shelf life. I would like to ask Lucille to take over and talk a little bit more about the application of this solution.
Thank you, Eric. So here is an example of cost reduction with Hydra 0.2% in soft tortilla. So as Eric said before, Hydra 0.2% is a combination of functional ingredients, functional flour and enzymes, which results of our know-how on these two types of ingredients. It is a cost-saving solution which permits a substantial increase of dough hydration without giving any thickness. So the declaration is wheat flour, and it could give also benefits in softness on the finished product. On the right, you've got the example of the trial we have made. So in a controlled soft tortilla, we put 50% of water, and in the trial, when we add Hydra 0.2%, we can add more water between 2 and 4%, so the hydration could be 52 to 54%. An example for an industrial, if you produce 1 million of soft tortilla of 40 grams each, you can have a cost saving up to 15 euros. So when you increase the hydration up to 4%, you can have a 5% cost reduction of your dough. The second example is the use of Hydra Plus in the brioche recipe. So with Hydra Plus, we are still in a combination of functional ingredients, functional flour and enzymes. These enzymes used in Hydra Plus are different than those we use in Hydra 0.2%. This ingredient permits an extra hydration of 5 to 7 points, and it is a cost-saving solution even with the dosage at 3%. So it permits a substantial increase of dough hydration, and the interest of Hydra Plus compared to Hydra is the additional functionality, which is the improvement of softness and texture until the end of the shelf life of the brioche. So how to use this ingredient? So if you in your brioche you got 25.3% of water, when you put Hydra Plus in your mixer, so the dosage is 3%, and you can go up to 32.3% of water, so you can increase up to 7 points. An example of cost reduction for an industrial, we can produce 1 million of brioche over 800 grams each. It can have a cost saving up to 82 euros. So with 7 points of hydration increasing, you can have a cost reduction of 3.5% of the dough.
And now we'll present to you all of our functional flours that can be used to reduce the costs in your recipes.
Thank you, Aurélie, and thank you, Lucille. Functional flours. Well, functional flours are our core business at Limagrain, and Innosense is our Limagrain Ingredients brand of functional flours dedicated to the food applications. Innosense flours are used as a texturizer, process enhancer, or for nutritional benefits. So there are different applications, and there is an Innosense functional flour for all your needs. But what is an Innosense product, and what are functional flours? Let's go into depth a little bit more. An Innosense functional flour, what is it? Well, it consists out of cereals and or pulses within different types, different varieties, not only wheat, but also the rice and the maize, and within them different varieties. And we need a process, different heat treatment processes and different ways of grinding to achieve different particle size. Those different cereals, pulses, and different processes give a very broad range of Innosense functional flours. What are Innosense functional flours used for? First of all, for their functionality. They give texture, process improvement, nutritional improvement, shelf life improvement, etc. It's used in very broad applications. We talked a little bit about bread applications so far, but also in pastries, ready meals, sauces, desserts and beverages, and also in meat replacement, you can find our different Innosense solutions. Our functional flours are also used to give you some benefits. Dough hydration, as briefly discussed, resistance to industrial process, cost reductions, as we've discussed today, and it will enhance and give you benefits in consistency and shelf life, freshness. If we are going to talk a little bit more about cost reduction, don't go nuts, cut the costs. If you use nuts in your recipes, you know that these are specific ingredients. And to replace nuts, you need taste and texture like nuts. How are we going to solve that? We have a few solutions to replace nuts. First of all, an Innosense wheat TM40. The Innosense wheat TM40 is a granulated functional flour. It is used for the almond powder reduction in pastry application. Because it has had a heat treatment and it has a larger particle size, it will also give you some textural benefits. It has some crispiness inside. And of course, it's a clean label solution. It is declared as a wheat flour. So far for an almond powder, but of course there are loads of different types of nuts. For example, if you should use a hazelnut, you could replace that with a Nutricorn. The Nutricorn is a toasted maize germ made from the Limagrain maize intercorporate chain. Because it is toasted, it has a very favorable flavor, a little bit of a nutty flavor. Besides the flavor, it also should give you some nutritional benefits. Here you see the nutritional values of the Nutricorn. If you compare that with a hazelnut has double the amount of fat, half of the fiber content, approximately the same protein content, a fifth of the magnesium content, and a hazelnut has more calories. Also good to notice that the magnesium content in Nutricorn could allow you to give the claim source of magnesium in your end product if you use 7 grams of Nutricorn per 100 grams of finished products. When you add Nutricorn, you do not add allergen, and it's gluten-free. Also a benefit. And of course it's a clean label declaration, only as a maize germ. So far regarding our nut replacement.
Thank you.
I would like to introduce Lucille for the application.
Thank you, Eric. So here is an example of cost saving by replacing hazelnuts with Nutricorn in cookies recipe. So with Nutricorn, you keep similar sensory profile and you also improve some sensory benefits as there is no risk of rancidity and bitterness with Nutricorn. This ingredient gives also crunchiness with a slight toasted taste when used in biscuit and cookies. Nutricorn is easy to use as it has a regular shape, it is stable in time and has a shelf life of 9 months, which is quite long for a mice jam. So in the example of the recipe, you can see that we have replaced 9% of hazelnuts in the control and in the trial, we have replaced with 9% of Nutricorn with the same sensorial benefits. So if the industrial produced 10 million cookies of 28 grams each, you can have a cost saving of 61 kilo euros. So by substitute 100% of nuts, of hazelnuts in this case, you can have a cost reduction of 6% on your dough recipe.
Thank you, Lucille. Now let's take a look at all of our solutions in order to reduce the fat to help you reduce the costs.
Thank you, Lucille and Aurélie. To replace fat, it's a broad topic. And yeah, we have some solutions to replace fat with our functional flours. I would like to discuss two types of products. It's the Innosense Wheat 1000R and the Innosense Wheat WI. Both specifically developed for this purpose, to have some cost-saving solutions to replace fat. It's of course not easy to replace fat because fat is used to give you specific mouthfeel and consistency. Therefore, we derive those products from a waxy variety. A waxy variety would mean that we use a wheat product of a wheat with a specific characteristics of a high amylose pectin content that will give us a full mouthfeel and a great consistency. That means that we have and we can reduce fat with the same organoleptic profile as when you use fat. And of course, it's a clean label declared as a wheat flour. Also a great benefit for this and these types of products. Lucille will tell you a little bit more about the application.
Thank you, Eric. So for cost saving by fat reduction, we propose a functional flour from waxy wheat, like Eric said before. So the two functional flour are Innosense Wheat WI and Innosense Wheat W1000R. So waxy wheat contains starch composed only of amylopectin, which gives specific properties to the flour made with it. Then we can improve the texture and the mouth melting of the finished product. In the brownies recipe, so we can reduce 20% of the butter content, replace it with 1.3% of functional flour, and obtain the same organoleptic profile with this recipe. The water content has to be adjusted to obtain a good dough behavior. So on the slide you can see what were our trials. So in the control we put 19.4% of butter and we reduced 20%. So in the two trials we have 15.4% of functional flour and 15.4% of butter, and we had 1.3% of each functional flour for each trial. And in the two cases, we put 2.7% more water to have the good dough behavior. So if an industrial produces 1 million of brownies of 280 grams each, by replacing 20% of the fat, you can have a cost saving up to 100 euros. So you can have 6.5% cost reduction on the dough. So we propose two different functional flours to reduce fat in brownies, depending on the final organoleptic characteristic you want to obtain. With Innosense Sweet WI, you will have a moisty, fatty, and melting mouthfeel. The brownies will be fudgy. With Innosense Sweet 1000R, brownies will have a more cakey aspect and mouthfeel. So on the graph, you can see that with the two functional flours, we can improve the softness of the brownies until the shelf life.
Thank you, Lucille. So now let's take a look at another example of our fat reduction solution here in a chocolate cream dessert recipe. So in our example, we initially used cream, as you can see in the control. So cream with 30% fat. So by using two of our functional flours, here Innosense Sweet L3D at 0.8% and Innosense Sweet 1000R at 0.3%, we were able to entirely replace and substitute the cream. So the use of both functional flours allows us to obtain the typical texture of cream dessert. Innosense Sweet 1000R bringing the creamy and fatty side in mouth, while Innosense Sweet L3D will allow you to obtain a smooth and thick texture. So thanks to the use of these two solutions, you can therefore substitute the cream entirely and reduce your costs by 36%, saving approximately around 55,000 euros, which is based on a production of 1 million cream desserts. So also please note that in addition to these cost reduction benefits, our solution will also help you to improve the nutritional benefits of the end product, thanks to the reduction in fat, while, as always, remaining clean label. And now let's move on to the last part of our solution for cost saving, which is starch substitution.
Thank you, Aurélie. Yes, this is our last cost-saving solution for today. It's a very important one due to the market prices of both native and modified starch. It's a broad topic, a major topic we noticed in the industrial market to replace starches. Well, of course, we have a few products to replace starches. Today we want to talk about the Innosense Visco Plus. This is a functional flour for texturizing in hot conditions and the starch substitution. The Visco Plus will give you sensorial benefits. It will give you a traditional, more natural color and a more smooth homemade aspect. It will give you also process benefits. It has a high resistance to shear. It has a great freeze-thaw stability, no synerresis, due to its waxy wheat heritage, and of course its clean label and declared as a wheat flour. So, great example of a replacement of starch. You see a few photos made from our tests. Above you see a 6% native wheat flour after 2 freeze thawing cycles. You see that there is no smoothness. You see that there is synerresis. It's not a great product. Then you see a 4% clean label starch after 2 freezing and thawing cycles. It's also subject to synerresis already. It's not that smooth anymore. And then you have the 6% Innosense Visco Plus after the same 2 freeze thawing cycles. It's smooth, it's no subject to synergesis, and it's a great solution. You might ask yourself or us, why are you using 6% of Innosense Visco Plus compared to the 4% of clean label starch? Well, that's the following. The Innosense Visco Plus is a flour, and the flour contains approximately 75% of starch. So that is compared to 4% of a native starch. Thank you all so far. I would like to give the last presentation to Aurélie.
Thank you very much, Eric. And indeed, we are here at our last example. So here is the example of Visco Plus used in a bechamel recipe in order to replace a clean label starch. So if you take a look at the example, so you can see that our solution here, so in the initial recipe, the control one, we used a clean label starch, which was entirely replaced with our solution, Innosense Visco Plus. In addition to allowing a substitution of the starch, our solution also allows and gives you an improvement of the texture, which will be at the end smoother and creamier. It will bring this authentic taste that you can get with a homemade recipe. Of course, our solution is resistant to shearing, pasteurization, and freezing, and it remains totally stable during the shelf life, so you will get no synergesis, as explained by Eric before. So regarding the starch substitution, you can of course achieve a complete substitution and obtain a cost reduction of up to 11%, which is approximately 8,000 euro based on 1,000 million sauce of 125 grams each. So thank you all for your time. Let's now start the Q&A session. So as explained at the beginning, you can ask us your question in the question tab. Feel free to send us all of your questions. So we already have several questions. So the first one is for you, Lucille. So have you also tested Glusafe Plus in pastry, laminated dough, croissant dough, or in donuts? And would you have some results to share?
Yes, we just began a few weeks before to work on a croissant. So the first test we have made in initial recipe, we put 2% of gluten, and we succeed to reduce it to substitute 50% by adding 0.5% of Glusafe Plus. And I think that we will do more trials to try to substitute more than 50% and try to increase the amount of Glusafe Plus until 1%. The trial has been done in pre-baked, not pre-baked, sorry, pre-proofed croissant, frozen pre-proofed croissant.
Thank you, Lucille. We have another question regarding our solution to increase the water's hydration. So how do you declare Hydra Plus and Hydra 0.2% in the ingredient list?
So Hydra 0.2% and Hydra Plus are a combination of functional flour and enzyme. So when we produce it, the declaration is wheat flour and enzyme with the name of the enzyme. For Hydra Plus, we use cellulase and xylanase, and in Hydra Plus we use wheat flour, transglutaminase, glucose oxidase, and amyloglucosidase. So for the industrial, we use these two ingredients. The declaration in their finished product will be wheat flour.
Okay, thank you very much, Lucille. So I think we have time for 2 more questions. So one question for you, Eric. So you mentioned wheat solution, but do you have any gluten-free reference in your range?
Yes, of course. Thanks for this question. Yeah, we have, of course, several gluten-free products in our range. We also have rice solutions, we have lentil solutions, so there are different solutions for the gluten-free applications.
Okay, thank you very much. Another question. So, is Glusafe Plus an improved version of X-Glusafe that was on the market many years ago?
Yes, you're right. A few years ago, we launched Glusafe, and we have worked again with a new type of enzyme, and then with this new enzyme, we can improve the effect of Glusafe. And now it's a new version, it's version 2.0. The name is Glusafe Plus, yes.
Thank you, Lucille. And I think we have the time for one last question. So the question is, can your solutions be used to replace modified starch? So yes, so as presented, we have a solution to replace starch, but we can replace modified starch, native starch, clean labeled starch, of course, and as presented in the example, but as well as hydrocolloids. So our solutions work both on hot and cold processes. And of course, we'll have to adjust the dosage that may vary depending on the process, recipe you use, and the texture you're looking for. So we arrive at the end of our webinar. Thank you all for your time. So we didn't have the time to answer several questions, but no worries, we'll get back to you personally with the answers you need. Thank you very much to all for your time. We will send you, as explained at the beginning, the presentation after the end of our webinar, so you can have another look to the event. So thank you very much, and have a nice day.